What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Ripple. I want to give you a quick overview of some of the data points, break it down on what is really moving it, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Ripple is pulling back slightly, 1.15%. Nothing in particular other than its technicals that's really driving it. At the same time, you are seeing relatively low volume. So that's been one thing that's been really plaguing Ripple over the last little bit. You can kind of see just generally has been very, very low ever since pretty much the last week of December. But over the last 24 hours, 1.27 billion. And so whenever you have lower volume, you are going to have a little bit more swings. Even though you've seen lower volume with Ripple, you've seen the price for the most part maintain itself, holding a lot of good support levels. So I think in reality, the big whales are still watching Ripple. And as well, there's a lot of big catalysts coming out in the next roughly around 2 weeks that will most likely cause Ripple to explode higher. So you have the whole appeal that is coming out on the 15th, January 15th, same on the exact same day, CPI. So if better than anticipated, then the whole broad market is going to be very kind of reassured, and most likely that would be more alluding to another potential cut, and so that's just going to increase consumers' buying power and everything else. And then Gary stepping down, that is going to most likely have people chatting about a Ripple ETF. So that in among itself would be absolutely huge, because of course to increase the utility is next level in reality. And speaking of that, I've never really brought it up in previous videos, but this right here shows obviously merchants and number of merchants accepting Ripple as a form of payment. So just in January, so even though we're 4 days in, there already is 14 new merchants accepting it as a form of payment. So bringing the grand total to 1,494. This is exactly what you want to see. And so at the same time though, you are seeing low volume because of this. So the fear and greed index is under the greed category. And just historically, you can kind of see this type of kind of pullback does happen with here in January before it starts to kind of explode going into March. So everything is kind of following the trend as per normal. So even though you are seeing Ripple kind of pull back, it is still above the key points to watch for. So I'll go over that in a second. But as far as liquidations, you are seeing longs cutting some of their losses or possibly taking in profits or whatever else. But 1.48 million in the last day is being liquidated from longs. So that's what's adding the selling pressure. And with lower volume, of course, this is why you're seeing kind of it peak around that $2.50 mark. But on the actual chart itself and the actual support and resistance points, with it at $2.42, it is trading between this R1 and the pivot. So even though you are seeing some downside a little bit right now, it's still above that 227 mark. So in general, still very good on the technical front. Flip side though, as long as this 227 does hold, then you can anticipate, at least in the short term, for 268 to be hit. And then above that, 293 and then 333. So I think in general, like I said, with all the good catalysts coming out in the next 2 weeks, there's going to be a lot more buying and focus on Ripple rather than even Bitcoin and whatever else. And in my opinion, I know a lot of people say this, I still feel that Ripple is going to move up to the number 2 spot in possibly 2025. So I think in general, even comparing it to Bitcoin, the risk versus reward at these prices is far greater for Ripple than it is with Bitcoin. So again, you do with all that information what you will, but on the actual chart itself, I'm looking at the 1-day chart, the 50, 100-day moving averages, ALMA, super trend. So you are seeing that consolidation right now happen, but it still is above the ALMA, so still not something to worry about. That ALMA is at $2.34. So still far ways before things start to turn fairly bearish. But like I said, I think just generally there's a lot more upside. So this is just more of a momentary blip. Quickly moving over to the 4 hour, because you always have to look at the 4 hour, 1 hour, everything feeds into each other. This is where you're seeing that momentary weakness. And as far as I'm able to see, there isn't really any news to justify this right here, other than just longs, maybe rotating funds out or something like that. So yeah, no substantial news or anything to really justify that. So in my opinion, I think it is still going to just continue to move higher. At least in the short term, just watch for that $2.43 mark to kind of be that pivot. But like I said, I think this is just a momentary blip. So if you do believe in Ripple bigger picture, take advantage of any and all dips, because you never know when it is going to absolutely explode. So let me know your thoughts on Ripple, and if you think it is a good buying opportunity right now, and where is your 2025 price prediction? Where do you see it going ultimately? So let me know your thoughts on Ripple. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon, where I give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolute bangers, and one of which was even Ripple. So I've been very, very accurate in the past. Even last time I did state that it was going to go to roughly around that $2.90 range, and that was the high when it did spike. So it kind of hit my targets for that. And then previously I did say that it was going to consolidate to that 202 range, and lo and behold, it kind of hit that $2 range exactly to a T. So definitely worthwhile to pop over to my Patreon, take a look, link in the description below and also the comments. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.